This was in the box and I didn't read it last night. Dear Ajahn, Master of Simile, smile. The more I relax in meditation, the more the saliva builds up in my mouth. Remembering to swallow seems to break my focus and scatters my attention. I try putting my tongue in different positions, but no success. Help, I'm drowning. It's very simple to solve that problem. If you go into town, you can buy one of these things. You have the dentist, the things they put in your mouth. So when you meditate, you can get that saliva extractor, like in the dentist. So get one of those. Now, all the time, if you think about it, you get more saliva. Now, can you feel the saliva in your mouth now? Now it's a problem. Now you keep on swallowing. Before I mentioned it, it was very easy, no problem at all. But once you start thinking about it, it's a problem. So the thing is, if you've got, in meditation, if you've got saliva in your mouth, just swallow. And then swallow and swallow. Because if you try and stop being natural, it builds up and it gets this huge problem. You end up dribbling just like a crazy person. So just swallow. Dear Ajahn, api is a Malay word for fire. This comes out of my mind a few times before smoke came out of the monastery from the bush when Vana Apichatto's name was playing in my mind, out of nowhere. Apichatto, api, fire, then smoke. What did it indicate? It's because api is not a Malay word. He's not Malay, he's Australian. And apichatto means one of few wishes. Api in Pali means few. So people of few wishes is api. So it's not fire. Fire is a Malay word. This is apichatto, which means one of few wishes. And what did it indicate? It means you've been thinking too much, meditating too little. I saw the scene of the wave as seen on the TV screen before I saw the scene of the wave as seen on a TV screen a week before the tsunami in Phuket and Aceh 5 years ago. Or all this happening coincidence? Karmic, please elaborate. Thanks so much. I think you're saying that you have premonitions. You see premonitions of smoke. You see premonitions of waves. Do you see premonitions of lottery numbers? If so, please come over here. Sometimes you've got to be very careful with premonitions because sometimes you see them and they're not real. Or they are real, but you misunderstand them. Like that. Put your hand up if you've heard the story of the... I haven't told it yet. He had a premonition. He had a premonition that he's heard the story before. Excellent, amazing. I'm not going to tell the story now. Now you know. Okay. Not safe to be outside during lightning, so please stay inside. Is there a lightning storm tonight?
Yep.
Great. At last, you might see the nimitta at last. This flash, I see the nimitta. And then you have out-of-body experience. See, so, no, it's okay. Okay, you're all right. Some clues, please, or very well-established patterns that get in the way of deeper meditation, e.g. that involve controlling tendency in the ego. Okay? Some clues, please, on some clues, please, on very well-established patterns that get in the way of deeper meditation, e.g. that involve controlling tendencies in the ego. One of the things which happens when you get into nice deep meditation is you get fear. And fear is always about to let go of an attachment. So when fear comes up, great. That is a cold face of insight. That's where you learn what you're attached to. So it's okay to think, I'm not attached to the body, but when you have to let it go, then you find out if you're attached or not. So you're sitting here and the hands are disappearing. You say, my hands have disappeared. What's happened to them? That means you've been attached to them. So just let them go. So if you get afraid, marvelous, face the fear, go beyond it, and then you find you're not really attached. And then you may go to say your breath. You stop breathing. I'm stopped breathing. I'm going to die. No, you don't die. Look, how many times have we had anyone die on a retreat here? Never. Not once, never, ever. So you're not going to be the first. So you're not going to die, guaranteed. So you're not going to die, but we feel we're attached. So just let go of the control of the breath. Let it go. It'll come in and out when it wants to. So these are the things where you get fear coming up, and that makes you interfere with the problem, with the process. Just let it go. So you don't have to do anything. And sometimes you get into these really deep states, and you think, what am I doing? This is really weird. This is strange. What should I do? Do nothing. And you're perfectly safe. So whenever there's any fear comes up in meditation, great, that's teaching you what you're really attached to. Let go of all that attachment, and you go far, far deeper into meditation. And you have a wonderful time. So that's some of it, about controlling. Can you please explain the reason for the no meal after 11 o'clock precept? Look at me. I only eat breakfast and lunch. If I ate after 11 o'clock, what would happen to me? I'd explode. I'd die from overweight. So that's why for monks, we keep it before 11 o'clock. So at least we don't get obese, we're just overweight, that's all. Same with you. Isn't it great you don't have anything in the evening, which means no cooking, no washing up, you're totally free. And many people have come to stay in this monastery, many women, they've come there and they've gone back home and they've told their husband, right, from now on, I'm only feeding you once a day. Why you cook for these people, you've got to go shopping for all the food. Preparing a meal is so much work. And then, you prepare the meal, you put it out, set the table, and, the 10 minutes, they stuff it down their throat, and then it's all gone. And then you've got to wash all the pans and the dishes. About 10 minutes of eating is a couple of hours of work. Is that really efficient? No, so do it all in one go. If you like, say, cornflakes, in the morning, put cornflakes. And if you like, say, stew, put stew together. And if for the evening meal you like sandwiches or something, put sandwiches. Put it all in the pot, stir it up. So just have the one meal a day, all in one go. Isn't that efficient? They don't have to do so much cooking. And look, why is it you have a bowl for your soup, a plate for your bread, a big plate for the curry, and another little bowl for the sweets afterwards, and maybe another bowl for the yogurt or the ice cream? It all gets mixed up inside, so mix it up outside, and you have less crocking, less washing up to do. I'm not convincing you, am I? But anyway, that's what we do. So we eat it early on, so it's all finished with. So you've got the whole afternoon and evening free. You don't have to worry about food. That's why we do it before. Before midday is when we stop eating. Buddha mentioned that each Brahmavihara should be balanced with the 7 enlightenment factors, did he? I don't remember that one anyway. Please explain how to do this practically, i.e. metta with each enlightenment factor. Gee, I don't think I can remember that one. But anyway, you don't actually balance these things. So have as much as you possibly can. As much metta. You don't need to balance with anything, just go for broke. Have mega metta. Have giga metta. No, giggle metta, not mega metta. And compassion, you can't have too much compassion. You can't have too much mudita, the sympathetic joy. You can't have too much equanimity. So what are you balancing it for? Doesn't make any sense to me. So get as much as you possibly can. Like even the enlightenment factors, mindfulness. You have as much mindfulness as you want. So I don't think it should be balanced. Every factor should really go for broke. That's what I say. I hope I haven't sort of contradicted the Buddha. Have I? No, he's silent, so okay. Oh, here we go. A man gets fed up with all his defilements and self-indulgent ways. That's sexist. What about a woman? Anyway, it says here a man. Let's keep it gender neutral. A person. A person gets fed up with all his defilements and self-indulgent ways. They decide to go live at a monastery known for its strict ascetic practices. As a lay person, he must keep all the precepts and is only allowed to... this is another joke. It is only allowed to speak 2 words to the monks every 7 years. 7 years go by, and the monks give him the opportunity to speak his first 2 words. So he's been in the monastery for 7 years. Hasn't spoken a word. And now he can say two words. And he says, bad food. Another 7 years eventually pass. The monks ask if he has chosen his next words. And he says his next 2 words, hard floors. 7 years later, the monks wait patiently for another 2 words, I'm leaving. And the monks say, we're not surprised. You haven't stopped complaining ever since you got here. That's an old favourite. Very good. Yeah. Very good. Dear Ajahn, is it true that monks have better than average memories and are less likely to get dementia due to meditation and paying attention to the present moment? Actually, I can't remember. Yeah, actually, I think it's probably true. Like anyone who meditates has probably got a much, much better memory than other people. I think one of the reasons is because this is the actual word for mindfulness in Pali. Sati is exactly the same word as memory. And the Buddha actually links those together. People who've got good mindfulness get good memories. So that's why if you're very, very mindful, got lots of good mindfulness, then you remember things. Very good. So that's why, yeah, it's true. That not just monks, nuns, anyone who meditates gets much better memories. And it'd be interesting actually to see if people who meditate have less incidence of dementia than people who actually don't. And I think it's probably the case that if you meditate a lot, then because you're cultivating mindfulness, you won't get dementia as much. Just like that story of the man who went to the doctor and he said, oh, you've found 2 diseases in you. He said, oh my goodness, what are those? He said, the first you've got cancer. He said, oh my goodness, cancer, that's terrible. What's the second disease? He says, you've got Alzheimer's disease. He said, well, at least I haven't got cancer. Okay, that's an old joke too. The next one. What is the cause to have more energy and motivation to meditate, focusing on suffering? No, that just makes you depressed. Any advice to be patient in meditation, not expect results, etc. The cause of having more energy and motivation to meditate is joy, fun. And when you realize that meditation is joyful and fun and interesting, and stops you getting dementia and all these other amazing things, then actually meditation becomes really easy. So one of the things, I used to meditate, but I really enjoyed my meditation when I was a student. I really looked forward to it. It was good fun. Because, we were encouraged to develop the Piti Sukha. And because the Piti Sukha, the joy of meditation was encouraged, when it came, it was marvelous. I enjoyed myself. So for me, meditation was fun. It was really a fun thing to do. And then, when you started seeing its benefits for you, and I think I mentioned one of the first times I saw its benefit in ordinary lay life was when I did my final examinations at Cambridge. And those were the days where all your years of study were all assessed with a series of examinations. You passed or you failed. Everything else you did in the whole years at college counted for absolutely nothing. So this was it. And in natural sciences, theoretical physics was part of that. It was 6 days of examinations. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday too. 3-hour exam in the morning, 3-hour in the afternoon, 6 days straight. That was really tough. So, what I did in the hour I had for lunch between the morning and afternoon examination, I never had anything to eat. I went to my room, I meditated. It was a brilliant thing to do. So you sat down there and, you got back maybe about after 10 or 15 minutes, in your room, sat down and meditated for half an hour. And as soon as you settled down, the first thing which came into your mind was the morning examination, the past. How did I do? Did I answer the question correctly? Should I put more explanation in? Now, because I was a meditator, I could let go of the past. It's an obvious thing to do. Look, whatever you did in the morning exam, it's finished. You can't change it. If it's right, wrong, it's too late now. So it's a total waste of time to think about the past. But because I trained, I could do it. I could totally let go of the past. And the next thing which came in my mind, the afternoon exam, coming up in 40 minutes' time. Should I get my books up and start some more study? But I realized even then that if I'm going to perform well in the afternoon, I need to rest now. So because I trained to let go of the future, because now is the time my future is being made. Now is the best time I can rest to prepare myself for the afternoon examination. So it's very easy for me to let go of the future. So I had no cares at all about the future examination in the afternoon. And where did I come to? I came into the present moment. And then when I came into the present moment, I remember this was really shocking. I found myself physically shaking. I mean, understandably why. It was a very high-stress situation. It was final examinations. And look, I never realized I was going to become a monk. If I had have realized I'd becoming a monk, I wouldn't have tried so hard. Who cares? But I never knew at the time, so this was important. So I was stressed out. But what really shocked me was not that I was shaking, but I hadn't noticed it. You're so concerned with, doing examinations, the stress of the moment. You had no mindfulness of your body, and you couldn't see the nervousness. And as soon as I could notice that there was a shaking going on, I could relax and stop it. And without that awareness, I'd have still been really nervous. I could just relax it and stop it. Like many of the problems, emotional problems, physical problems, if you're mindful of it, then you can actually do something about it. You can relax and see all that sort of nervousness vanishing. And the last thing which I noticed, once the body relaxed and became still, was my poor mind was just so dull. And it was obvious that I'd just done 3 hours of very heavy brain work. And I'd run out of gas. And even then I realized to get the energy back, just be still, don't fight, just relax. And after 5 or 10 minutes, all the energy came back into my brain. So when I came out of meditation, every lunch hour during that stressful time, I let go of the past and the future, relaxed my body, was still enough, all the energy came back into my brain. It was like waking up in the early morning, with total energy, fresh as if it was the beginning of the day. And it was a very, very effective way of doing well in examinations. And my friends, they told me afterwards that, only afterwards, they said they couldn't figure out why I was the only person going into the examination room in the afternoon with a smile on my face. I had energy. Everyone else was just stressed out. And that was amazing examination technique when I really realized how powerful the meditation is to overcome anxiety, stress, the whole works. And that's how you did it. Let go of the past, the future, mindful of the body and relax it, and then mindful of the mind. And get the energy coming back. Very simple, but incredibly powerful. And that's actually how you have energy. And once you do that a few times, you realize how powerful it is and how well it works. That really motivates you to keep doing it. Funny question. Is there a tacit understanding in the Sangha that some ordination names are off limits? Why no Venerable Buddha or Sister Nibbana yet? Now, there are some funny names off limit, because in the monks' names always end in an O, like Brahma Wangso, this is Dhammakamo, Lokahito, and so we thought Coco would be nice. So yeah, sometimes we make up some funny names for monks and we give it to them just as a joke, but we usually sort of be very, very careful. Because there's one poor monk in Thailand, and what they use, the names in Thailand, we have all these different sort of traditions. They use the monk's first name as their Christian name, their first name, and they usually call them that. So, Cha was his first name. So they called him Ajahn Cha. He had a Pali name, but they never called him that. And this is no joke, there was one monk in Thailand, a very good meditation monk, a very wise teacher, but there's no way he could ever go to the West. And the reason was because his name in Thailand, it sounded like F-U, the last two letters. And that was his name. And people used to call him that, because that was his name, and no one thought twice of it. But he had one Western disciple, and when this is a funny story. When this monk's, I think it was from Denmark or somewhere, when this monk's parents visited, and they say, "What's your teacher's name?" They said, "Don't be rude, you can't say that. That's his name. I don't care." But this is another interesting story about names. This is like culture. Because over in Ajahn Chah's monastery, we're talking to one monk, from the local villages around, and he said, "What's your name?" And his name, the Laotian people at the end there will understand, his name was Kima. See, they laughed, they got a giggle out of them. Kima, which, it does literally mean dog shit. We couldn't believe it. Is that your real name? And actually it was. It was a monk called Dog Shit. And it's a crazy story. And when we asked why, this was the reason why. This was a village, in the middle of the whoop-whoops. And they had this series of miscarriages or stillbirths in the village. One after the other after the other. And so, they didn't have any sort of medical people there to find out why. So they had a meeting, all the senior people in the village and the headman. Now, why is it that, there's so many sort of births which haven't really come to fruition, and miscarriages and stillbirths, what's going on? And they all decided there must be some sort of goblin in the area, like a yakka, who is actually, getting the children and eating them, because that was one of the myths or the myths of Buddhism, having goblins or yakkas which eat children. Just like even in Europe, they had little goblins who would get the children. And so they thought, how can we stop this goblin eating all our kids? And they said, the only way to do this is to give all our kids disgusting names, so that no self-respecting goblin would eat any kid by the name of dog shit or bat vomit. And so they gave all the kids these names to protect them from being taken away by goblins. And so this poor young man was stuck with this name. It worked anyway. He survived. He didn't get taken away by the goblin. And of course, that must have been one of the reasons why he became a monk. Because what girl would go out with and marry a person like that? Had nothing left for him to be a monk. So it's a true story. It cracked me up when I laughed for weeks when I heard this name. Anyway, dear Bhante, on cards, sorry there's no more paper. Really? Have we run out of paper? Well, there's been so many questions, I wouldn't be surprised. Anatta is variously translated as either no self or not self. Can you discuss? It doesn't make any difference. No self is the noun, not self is the adjective. That's all. It's no self or not self. So you might say things are anatta, in other words, the things are not self, or that anatta means it's no self. Oh, it's just an adjective or a noun, that's all. But whatever it is, there's no one in there. So, who asked that question? Nobody did. So I shouldn't answer that, should I? Personally, I find contemplating not self good for eliciting dispassion. No self seems too abstruse, to wield in a practical way. Any suggestions? Okay, I think when you try and contemplate not self and do no self meditation, it's just too complicated. But it's just because people love thinking about abstruse things. The best thing to do is stop contemplating anything and just make yourself still, so you can actually see no self and experiencing it, rather than trying to contemplate it. But if you are going to contemplate anything, instead of contemplating no self or not self, it's very useful to contemplate, what do I take myself to be? Who do you think you are? Are you a girl, Dania? No, she's not a girl. Does Mike know that? Your husband? Well, you know what I mean. Sometimes we take ourselves to be these things. Are you old? Are you Sri Lankan? Are you? It's very difficult for me to know where I belong. You know, because sometimes, you know, I go back to the country where I was born in England, and I think, I'm coming home. And then on the way back, you may visit Sri Lanka, and I know so many people there. I'm home. And then you go to Thailand. I spent so many years there. I'm home again. And then you go to Malaysia. I spent a lot of time there. I'm home. And then you go to Singapore. Here I am, home again. And then you go to Australia, and I'm home again. Sometimes I don't know where I belong. Where do you belong? I don't know. You belong nowhere. There's no one there. So I can be sort of any nationality at any time. It's very nice. So who do you take yourself to be? That's why I remember as a young monk, people asked me, well, you know, in Australia, if there's a football match or a cricket match, who do you support? And I said, well, I wait to see who's winning at half time. And then I support those. It's much better. You've got more chance of being happy after the end of the match. But actually, I almost got into trouble with that once. This is my story of the cricket match. Because, you know, so many Sri Lankans are into cricket. So this one occasion, the Sri Lankan cricket team was playing the Australian cricket team here in Perth. It was only a one-day match. And some of the boys who'd been, I think they're doing some cultural show during the lunch break, they came over to Noramara, because I was on duty there at our city centre, and they said, look, you know, the team have asked for this holy string, this period thread. Has anyone got any string on their wrists? The period thread? Yeah, you've got some. Do you want to hold your hand up? You see that string they put on the wrist? That's like holy string. And so they asked, because they were really getting hammered by the Australian cricket team, can we please have some holy string to give us some good luck? So I'm very, very kind, compassionate monk. I always say yes to people. So I made them 12 pieces of string for the Sri Lankan cricket team. There's one for the 12th man. I remember cricket. So I gave the string to the boys, and they said thank you, and the cricket team, they wore them. But it was too late for that match. They lost. But that was only a warm-up for this Cricket World Cup, which was being held in India and Sri Lanka. And at the final, Sri Lanka played Australia, and Sri Lanka won. And there were celebrations all over Sri Lanka, and Australia were very disappointed because, like, you know, Australians, they love their cricket. And I happened to see in the newspaper the following morning, because I got a newspaper, and it was the front page, and it had the Sri Lankan cricket captain was Arjuna Ranatunga, and he had the World Cup lifted up, and that's when I saw my string on his wrist. The Sri Lankan team had beaten Australia in the World Cup cricket. This was serious stuff, because an Australian monk had given the team the holy thread. And I kept that secret for many years, because if they'd have found out straight away, I'd have been deported. So sometimes you don't support anybody. So who do you think you are? Sri Lankan, whatever. And you get past all that external stuff, which causes nationalism, which causes gender arguments. You're not a woman. You're not a man. You're not sort of old. You're not young. That's just the body. You're not sick. You're not schizophrenic. You're a person with schizophrenia. Understand the non-self business? If you make a self out of it, I'm schizophrenic, I'm bad, I'm a murderer, or whatever, then you get into big trouble. So who do you think you are? None of these things, and that means you're free. Are you your past? All those bad things you did. You're not your past. That's why you can let go and forgive. Who do you think you are? And when you tick all those boxes off, and none of these things are me, It's amazing, you can let go of the whole lot. Are you your body? Nope. Tick it off, that's nothing to do with me. Are you your thoughts? Nothing to do with me, they're not my thoughts. In fact, they're not my thoughts, I don't know where they come from, I never invite them in. And some of them are very stupid thoughts, so I'd be embarrassed to actually own those thoughts. Are you proud of all your thoughts? They can't be yours, so just let them all go. They have nothing to do with me. Even your emotions aren't you. So you tick off all these boxes. What do you take yourself to be? Until there's nothing left. Do you take yourself to be the one behind the will, the one who chose to write this? You look very deeply, there's nobody there. So little by little you tick off all the boxes, there's nothing else, there's no place you could be. And then you're free. Then you can do anything, because there's no one there to blame. It's very nice to know no self, because that means, as I said in my book, I'm absent from the scene of every crime I commit. I wasn't there, it wasn't me. Please, can you tell us more about karma? How much of our lives is a consequence of our previous karma? Karma gives you the ingredients of the present moment. But what you do with that present moment is the karma of now, which is most important. So the karma has led to you coming here right now. What do you do with this? It's just like Bianca. She has the food, that's the karma from the past. And she decides how to put that together for your meal tomorrow. And most important thing is not the ingredients, but the cook. Because some cooks, they can get worst of ingredients, they can put them all together, make something really delicious. Have you ever done that at home? You know, the shops are all shut, you look in the kitchen and what you've got to eat. What can I make out of this? It's not the perfect ingredients, but a really good cook, they can take anything, put it all together, and get these amazing recipes with the most unlikely of ingredients. Shove it all together, and it's delicious. So the ingredients is the karma from your past. But how you put it all together, and what you make out of it, that's the karma of the present. And the most important is the karma of the present. What you do with what you've got. And you can make the most beautiful cake or meal out of the most unlikely ingredients. Because the karma of the present is more important. So you may be disabled, you may be poor, you may have come from a bad background, you may have been abused as a kid, you've got very, very bad ingredients. But that doesn't stop you making a beautiful life. If you put those ingredients together and do something about it. So the karma gives you incredible opportunities to make a great meal out of unlikely ingredients. Dear Ajahn, we know adultery is harmful and wrong. Are you speaking from personal experience? You know, I can always check the handwriting against those forms you sign at the beginning. What is position regarding masturbation in erotic massage? Thank you. Why do you ask monks this? Okay, maybe I'll pass this on to the nuns. Look. Look, if you're in the lay world, you have sex and you enjoy, the sexual part of your character, which is fine, as long as it doesn't harm or hurt somebody. So, you make sure that if that's you, that, that it's consensual, there's no coercion involved, that, consensual means it's not with people who are underage or people who don't really know what they're doing, like they're drunk or on drugs, so then you can take advantage of people, which is not fair. And, that if you're doing that, you are getting attached to the sensory pleasures, fine, but that's your life. So be careful. If you decide to live a more spiritual life, just quite naturally, you tend to sort of move away from those sexual and sensual things because you can find them much more peaceful and happy. type of pleasure, especially in the meditations. Because the thing with sex, and if I remember, because I haven't had any sexual things for 38, 39 years now, or actually over that. In the last year before I became a monk, I was celibate. But I remember just, the sex with your girlfriend, when I was a young man. It was exciting, but there was a lot of tension involved there. And, it was totally different from meditation, which is so relaxed and free. The tension to perform, the tightness, and the, before the release. And a lot of it was just, when you look back upon it, it was sort of pleasurable at the release, but there was a lot of tightness and suffering and wanting, first of all, which was quite actually unpleasant when you look back upon it. And a lot of times, this is something which was really weird when I first read this, but I thought maybe this is actually true. That the Buddha told Ananda, the sex actually is unpleasant, but our whole society, our whole condition is saying sex is pleasant, sex is really good. Can you imagine if I said that in public too often? I say, sex is unpleasant. People think I'm actually crazy, because we all know that sex is fun, that sex is pleasure, that sex is good, that sex is what most people do on, if they can. And so when someone comes along and questions that and doubts that, it's one of the most heretical things you can possibly say. But you investigate it, think for yourself, have a look. Is it really fun? And it's a great question, because the Buddha said actually it's a perversion of perception. Actually it's not fun at all, but because you expect it to be fun, then it becomes fun. When I was growing up in England in the 1960s and 70s, people were starting to get into drugs. And one of the most popular drugs was LSD. I was very fortunate I never took such stuff. But for those who couldn't afford these hallucinogenics, these psychedelic drugs like LSD, there was a rumor going around that if you could ferment a banana skin, it did exactly the same. And what you needed to do was to take a banana skin and put it in this aluminium foil, leave it for a couple of days, and that will turn into some substance which will make you high. Now, I don't know if anyone remembers that time, but it was actually a total myth. The chemists checked it out, no way it makes you high. But I remember one of my friends, they decided to do that. And when they took it, said, wow, that was really good, that made me really, really high. Wow, that was amazing. And it was total placebo effect. Because they thought it was going to make you high, it made them high, but there was no reason for that at all. And that's like sex. Because you believe it's going to give you a big rush, maybe it does. Interesting, isn't it? Questioning it. But anyway, you're asking the wrong person, because I don't know what I'm talking about. It's too long a time. Anyway, thank you for that question. It's nice to challenge monks. Very excellent emptiness. Oh, it's even better than emptiness now. I'm going up in the world now. Very excellent. Do all sentient beings have Buddha nature? What about you? Do you have Buddha nature? Are you sentient? Actually, a lot of you aren't sentient, especially early in the morning. So, what they really mean, sentient beings have Buddha nature. I like to use that teaching as all beings have this beautiful goodness inside of them, something I can respect. So that's just like when you go and see criminals, when you go and see people who've been cruel to you, when you see people who've really hurt you, whether it's an Osama bin Laden or an Adolf Hitler. Does Osama bin Laden have Buddha nature? Of course he does. So there's always something in there you can respect and love. That opens up the door to forgiveness to anybody. When you realize inside every human being or the sentient being there's a core of goodness which one day can grow and develop into the most amazing being. It means you can forgive, you can respect, you can love. And the great thing is that once you see the Buddha nature, the goodness of purity in somebody, and you see it in them, they begin to see it in themselves. If you see in that murderer, there's a beautiful Buddha in there somewhere, then the murderer sees that, or the person who's murdered sees that, and they never murder again. They start to see the other side of them, and it grows. It's exactly the same as you. If you see all your faults and your pain, then it keeps on going on and on and on. If you see your Buddha nature, the beautiful part of you, the peaceful part of you, the kind part of you, if you keep seeing that, then that grows. You become a Buddha. So yeah, I'd like to use that. If so, is each being's Buddha nature covered in our unique set of defilements from our streams of consciousness? No, it is just what's it called? It is a potential in you. Is it not true that desiring jhanas does not lead to suffering? My suffering yesterday provided proof. It is not true that desiring jhanas does not lead to suffering, because you desire jhanas, it's how you desire jhanas. Desire it the right way, it means desire to let go of desire, and then it's no suffering. Most venerable Ajahn, I've gone down now, I was extremely venerable, now I'm only most venerable. Such is life, you've got to sort of take the ups and downs of monastic life. What's your opinion on the relationship of the mind and the brain? I've already told that story about the boy with no brain. He had no brain, but he had a mind. Or people with near-death experiences who float out of their body. They've got a mind. They're aware. They can see. They know what's going on. But their brain is dead. Gone. Kaput. Finished. So, the mind can make use of the brain, but it doesn't need the brain. It can work without a brain. I know that's what happens in hypnosis. In hypnosis, you can access the mind and bypass the brain, which is why under hypnosis, you can remember your past lives. That can't be stored in your brain, because your past life has got no connection at all with this life. There's no way that any sort of gene could have been transferred from your past life to this life, and you can still get these perfect memories of exactly what went on and why. I'm sure you've all heard stories of people who can remember their past lives. But one of those stories, which I was telling recently, and somebody actually gave a little bit more information about this, that when I grew up in London in the 60s and 70s, there was a comedian who was on the TV very regularly called Roy Hudd. Does anybody remember that name, Roy Hudd? A comedian in the 60s or 70s? He was a well-known TV personality. And his career hit a brick wall. And this is why. Fascinating story. He was at the height of his career, regularly on TVs and on other shows. And he was doing a show in a theatre in London. And on his way home, he got lost in a new one-way traffic system in London. He got lost, and he turned down a street he'd never been down before in this life. And when he went down that street in London, literally the hairs on the back of his head stood up, and all these recollections of his previous life came flooding in. Now remember, the streets in London, the houses, on the outside they stay exactly the same as they've been 100, 200 years ago. They just redesigned the interior, but the external facade looks exactly the same. And also, any of you who've been on holiday in London know that in London they have this actually quite a wonderful scheme of doing things. If there's been a famous person lived in that house, they put this blue metal circle. Say, Sir Winston Churchill lived here. The Duke of Wellington lived here or something. And you see that in London. It's a very wonderful little thing to do. So it brings a history to people who are visiting. Because in his previous life, he was a reasonably well-known person. In his previous life, this guy Roy Hudd, who's a TV personality, was one of the most famous music hall personalities called Dan Leno. I don't know why I remembered that name, because I was interested in old-time music hall, which was in the 1920s or 30s in London. And he was one of the most famous, so famous I had a plaque there. And that was him in his previous life. And he got out of his car, knocked on the door, And the people in the house, they recognized him. What are you doing here? He said, I used to live here. I was Dan Lino. And of course they didn't believe him. But they knew him. So he took them all around the house, showed how it was. It was perfect recall. And I think there was one room, he said there used to be a door here, and there was no door there, but they got the old plans, there used to be a door there. Perfect recollection. And the problem of his career, he wrote about that and published it in an article. And at the time, he was actually working, not for the BBC, but there was another broadcaster, the independent television channel, the ITV. And the head of that was a very devout Catholic. When he read that article, that was the end of Roy Hutt's career. He got blacklisted because the Catholics said, I don't want anyone believing in reincarnation on my company. And that was the end of his career. Because somebody told me they worked for the ITV and they knew that story. It was really weird and strange, but it was a case, the person with perfect recall of his previous life. He was famous, but most of you wouldn't know that, but he was a comedian in his previous life, and he was a comedian in this life. Now, as for my previous life, so I'm a comedian in this life, so I must have been a comedian in my previous life. Was I? Who knows? Anyway, can you force a light to appear in your mind's eye? If so, how do you know if it is a real nimitta? So forcing it means you can't maintain it. In other words, it's hard. So forcing it is no way to go. Through willpower, you can do many, many things. You can imagine a light. You can imagine anything through willpower, but you can't sustain it. It gives you a headache. So the real nimittas happen when you really relax and let go. They are the best. I once experienced the beautiful nimitta, the bright light and the blissful state, the joy and happiness. Well done. Do you suppose to see this or experience this in every time when you go into the deep samadhi? It's always there for you if you want to look at it on the way into deep samadhi. Remember, it's not a real light, it's a mental object which most people perceive as a light because that's the most close experience from this world outside, to see it as a light. And it's more so because most people are visual people. I'm sure that any neurologist would actually tell you that most of your brain is taken up with the visual objects, because that's the world in which we live the most. You know, we look, we see things. Yes?
Would it be possible for someone who was like a musical genius to have a musical nimitta?
Yeah, if suppose like, you know, is it possible if you're a musical genius to have a musical nimitta? If you're like Beethoven who was blind. No, he wasn't blind, he was deaf, wasn't he? No. He was deaf, yeah. Yeah, but so suppose someone was blind or something, and then, yeah, because then that auditory sense would be the one you're most used to. So that would make sense to me. So, but most people live in the world of images, visual things. And that's why that, you know, when you go to the immigration, you know, you look at the picture of you. They don't ask you to sing. You know, I suppose if you sang, you know, you could actually tell who you were, because everybody's voice is totally different, but they look at the visual thing, because we're visual people. Okay, so that's that question. Ajahn Brahm, can you talk a bit about ego and how we can learn to slowly let go of our ego, at least reduce it? Thank you kindly, me. One thing about the ego is that we're afraid of it. And what I mean here is the story of when I got a medal. This is actually, I tell this in many talks to people, but it's a very good story even here. Because, what was it, 2004 I think it was, I got this John Curtin Medal. It's an award. So I had to go to, it's quite a prestigious award, so I had to go to the medal ceremony and had to give a speech. It was like for community service and, you know, for all the hard work I've done here. And so I gave a speech, and my speech was roughly this. I said, I don't know why you're giving it to me, because there's many other people, you know, in Western Australia who do much more work for the community than I do. But, you know, thank you very much, it's a great honour. And number two, I couldn't have done this myself. You know, it's all the other people behind the scenes who support me and help me. but thank you very much. And that was roughly my speech. And the next year, I decided to go along. I was invited to the next year's medal winner ceremony. And that was this professor at Sir Charles Gardner Hospital here. And he was a professor of hematology. And he had noticed, being a professor of hematology, he was doing a lot of work with people with cancers. And he noticed they were getting very, very good care when it came to radiation therapy, chemotherapy, or surgery. But they weren't getting much aftercare. And he realized that little bit of TLC, people spending time with you, was missing. So he used his position in that hospital to get some few rooms, and he started this alternative therapy center in the middle of this major teaching hospital in Perth. He got a sponsor, it was Brown's Dairy. You may look at the milk you drink in the morning, that's Brown's Dairy, that was the sponsor. And he got all this weird medicine, like homeopathy, Reiki, foot massage, anything weird, acupuncture you could get there. And he said he had to suffer the jibes of his fellow scientists who thought he was getting soft in the head, because all this stuff was on the edge of medicine. But he stood his ground. He got this alternative therapy center going for any cancer patient in that hospital. They can go in there any time and get all this service for free. And he was following up the results. The alternative therapy actually did very clearly assist the number of people who went into recession, assisted the recovery from chemotherapy, radiation therapy, or surgery, had a huge positive result. Because if somebody's giving you, say, a foot massage, it doesn't matter if it works or not, someone is being kind to you for 20 minutes or half an hour. They're caring for you. And I know that that helps the healing process. So he's getting all these amazing results. And when I heard this, I thought, wow, what a great person. He stood up for what he believed in, fought all these doubters who said that's not real science. And he'd helped so many people. And I thought, wow, that's really great. He really deserves this medal. But when he came up to give his speech, he said, I don't know why you chose me. There's many other people in the community who've done much better. And anyway, I couldn't have done this without all the other people helping me, supporting me, behind me. And I thought, actually, that was my speech. And I've heard that speech many, many times when people are given awards. They say, I don't really deserve this. I couldn't have done this without all the people who helped me. And I thought, my goodness, that is a bad speech. Because I was totally convinced that that doctor deserved his award. And then I thought of my speech. And I realized, actually, I deserve that award as well. Because these very, very careful, wise people have done their research, and I did deserve the reward. So now I realize, why did I say no? Because I have been conditioned from my upbringing, if I get praise or an award, to say, no, I don't deserve it. And I think, my goodness, I am missing out on a lot of happiness and encouragement. So now, if ever I get an award, or people say that was a very good talk, I say, yes, thank you, I deserve that. Why not? People actually tell you, well done, Danny, you did a wonderful job looking after this retreat. Oh, no, that's my job, I'm a caretaker. Why do people refuse praise? But criticism, Danny, you should have cleaned the floor much better this morning. Oh yeah, that's right, Ajahn Brahm, I'm sorry, I was a bit tired. Why is it we always receive criticism, but we refuse to receive praise? No wonder we get depressed. So, the next time you receive any praise from somebody, from anyone, say, yes, thank you, I deserve that. Receive it. And that doesn't mean you get big ego. You don't get big head, but you get a big heart when you receive praise. It encourages you to do better in the future. A lot of ego is afraid of praise. You can actually lessen your ego by receiving praise. Try it and see. Your emptiness, wonderful Ajahn Brahm. Yeah, you see, I deserve that. Thank you for your endless generosity. No, it's got an end. It's coming in about another half an hour when I get tired. Last night, I woke myself up twice, laughing out loud while sleeping. That sounds fun. People probably thought you were drunk. The strong urge to laugh more kept me awake for some time. Must be your jokes. Yeah, it's great. Isn't that wonderful? Instead of having nightmares, to wake up laughing. That must be good for your health. What are your top 5 favorite suttas? Also, which is your favorite Nikaya? Top 5. But they keep changing. Impermanence. So I don't know. It's the ones I can remember. Top 5 favorite suttas. Okay, well, favorite Nikaya. Now, they're all really good. So they've got no preference. That's a good answer. They're all perfectly wonderful. Actually, usually the first suttas are good. After the contentment topic of this morning, could you please refresh the concept of metta meditation and the various techniques? My goodness, it's a huge amount of metta meditation. So contentment topic this morning, could you please refresh the concept of metta meditation and the various techniques? There's no end to the number of techniques for metta meditation, but with contentment, just be happy to be here. Open the door of your heart to whatever's happening now, and be content to be here. You know why it's good to be content to be here? Because you already are here. You can like it or lump it. That's the only choice you've got in life. So now I'm here, I'm going to be content to be here. It's much better than wanting to be somewhere else. So, that's the refresh concept anyway. I hope you're content with that. That's what I'm doing. There is Lao and Thai New Year on 13th, 14th, 15th of April. How come their New Year is so late? Now, what they do is like, just like when you take holidays, they have them like in a roster. They delay them. What's the word I'm looking for? Stagger them. Because if everyone had the New Year on the same day, then we'd only have one New Year to celebrate. So people like in Thailand and Laos, they celebrate January the 1st. That's the New Year on their calendar. And then, like this year, January the 23rd, that's Chinese New Year. They have a holiday for that as well. And then they have 13th, 14th, 15th, the 3 days holiday there, which is the South Asian New Year. So they have 3 New Years a year. It's really good fun, isn't it? So I think that's very wonderful. So they have all these holidays. That's why their economy's not so great, but they're pretty happy. And why don't monks eat afternoon? Did Buddha not eat afternoon? Why not? Again, to stop getting too fat. Dear Ajahn, you look so tired this morning. We must be draining all your precious energy out of you. Yeah, I caught somebody. I gave a talk in town once, and they were talking to each other and said, we must squeeze as much out as we can of this monk before he leaves. So he exploit me to the max. I'm going to take you to the Council of Human Rights. I'm going to get a union, start a union and get these, over in Perth, it's this guy called Kevin Reynolds, and get all these militant unions to go and strike and picket you for making me work too hard. Because not many people have to work. It's Australia Day today. It's a public holiday. We're supposed to have a day off today. Not me, though. You make me work all the time. 7 days a week, 52 days a week, a year. Even sometimes, you go travel. People always think, you see a monk, you can ask them a question. So many times this happens. Where was this? I'm going to Hong Kong next week to give some talks. The last time I was in Hong Kong, I finished the talk, and you need to go to the toilet. You're human. So I went inside the toilet, and this guy in the toilet said, Ajahn Brahm, look, I really need to ask you a question. I said, I need to go to the toilet. Oh, yeah, but it's only 5 minutes. And so, inside the toilet, he was asking me all these questions. And he was actually accurate, only 5 minutes, but as soon as he finished, someone else, Ajahn Brahm, can I take a photo of you? Inside the toilet. It's true, these things happen to me. The worst one, though, the worst of all, was this was in Kuala Lumpur, actually in Malacca. I was giving some talks in Malacca, and on the way back, They sort of, from Malacca to the airport, KLIA, somebody gave me a lift. And of course, giving a monk a lift is just like free counseling all the way. So they asked me all the questions on meditation and whatsoever. And when we got to the airport, fine, now I could get in the aircraft and sit down and have a rest. But I sat down, a window seat, a man sitting next to me, safe. And then this woman came down the aisle. She looked at me, "Oh, you're Ajahn Brahm?" I said, "Yes. I've always wanted to talk to you about something." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but there's another man sitting in the place over here, so sorry, you can't." You know what she did? She turned to the man and said, "Would you mind exchanging seats?" I was like, "No, no, no." And he said, "Yes." And so this lady, she was in the aisle seat, I was in the window seat, she had me all the way to Perth. And there's no way I could escape asking me questions all the time. And I was so tired. But yeah, fun anyway. It's a great story to tell other people when you get home. So I propose there is no question and answer session tomorrow, so you can get some good rest instead of answering our silly questions. The questions are all the same anyway. Yeah, I agree with that. If people will complain, tell them to download the Q&As from last year's retreat, or to listen to the stand-up comedy show for some entertainment. But you have to rest. No emails or even more interviews. Maybe we should install a small camera in your room to see if you are resting. If you're going to do that, I'm going to answer more questions. How do we justify chocolate, cheese, and lollies as medicine? I need to know so I can convince my wife. It just gets you in a good mood, doesn't it? It makes you happy. That should be enough to convince your wife. It makes you much easier to live with. So it's good for her, because then you don't get so cranky. Why are most monks and spiritual leaders so serious and boring? Really? Are they seriously lack of food? Have you ever seen a boring monk? Not in my monastery, anyway. And they're so serious. Look, sometimes that's what really put me off sort of many religions. You know, they were too serious and too boring. No life in them. It didn't really capture you. And does spiritual life have to be really boring? If it is, then where's this going to end up? I thought that heaven was a happy place. It must be very boring and serious up in heaven if all those priests and stuff go there. Actually, somebody told me this in Indonesia in a conference. They say, going to heaven is not a very good place to go these days. It used to be a very safe place to go, a place where you could just relax and rest, but these days it's not safe at all. There are so many suicide bombers have gone up there now. You never know where the next explosion is going to happen up in heaven. I think you get that story. And that was in a Muslim country, they told me that. Anyway, but one of the things which I remember, when I did get interested in Buddhism, I was very ecumenical, so I wanted to have a teacher, have a tradition, which was happy. Because look, I knew enough about Buddhism that if meditation was going to make you enlightened and end suffering, I wanted to see the end product. If you end suffering, you shouldn't be serious and boring, you should be happy. That's what happens when you end suffering, you should be happy. So I wanted to see an end result. So I looked at all the monks I could find in England and see who were the happy ones. And Sri Lankan monks were really serious and boring. There were no happy ones there. Burmese monks were just as bad. The Zen monks, oh, they were just frightening. No way did I want to sort of go and take one of those as my teachers. They kept hitting you. And then it really came down to a choice between the Thai monks and the Tibetan monks. They were the happy ones. The Thais were always smiling, and so were the Tibetans. And the Thai monk I knew actually smiled more than the Tibetan one did. And that was the reason I went to Thailand to become a monk. And that was really important for me, because I wanted to see a happy teacher. I wanted to see someone who could let go of suffering. Otherwise, what's the point? If they can't end suffering for themselves, how can they end suffering for me? So never ever follow a miserable teacher. Never do that, because if they're miserable, they just make you miserable. That's all they know, to teach misery. So if they are happy, at least they can teach what they know. Happiness. Are they serious lack of food? Yeah, I lack food, don't I? Look at me. Dear Ajahn Brahm, what does Buddhism say about cancer? Is cancer caused by bad karma? If so, this seems very unfair. As I know very good, kind, generous, loving people who have been struck down by cancer, who survived or died, and put this down to cancer seems very karma seems very unfair. Of course, it's not due to karma. It's due to not coming to the Buddhist society. It's due to not giving enough donations. It's due to what else could I get out of you? That's what many people say, that they try and make you afraid. If you don't believe in Jesus, you'll get cancer. Some people actually say that, you know, just to get you to come to their church. And that is really, really bad things. And if monks say that, you got cancer because of bad karma, that's just the same stupidity. The reason why you get cancer is because you've got a human body, and a lot of times it's because you stress out too much. And you're not mindful and aware of your body. You know, your body tells you when it's tired. But do you listen to it? No, you keep on working. Your body tells you when it needs a bit of a break, but you just keep pushing through. If you can be mindful of your body and listen to it and care for it, you won't get so many diseases. So being mindful of your body really helps. And tomorrow morning, I told somebody I'll teach this sweeping meditation tomorrow. I've been teaching a lot of people who are in cancer societies how to do sweeping meditation so you can take parts of your body and care for it, relaxing parts of the body individually. And so the sweeping meditation, you focus on a part of the body, be mindful of a small part of the body, give it lots of loving kindness and learn to relax it, move right up the body, and say, for women, when they get to your breasts, feel those sensations there. If there's any tightness there, learn how to relax it. And I'm not exaggerating here, that's an incredibly powerful way to avoid breast cancers, to catch them before they actually grow into a big problem. Just with simple mindfulness and kindness, relaxing parts of your own body. I think I told you that, because I've been practicing that a while and teaching it as well, when I got that, food poisoning. You can totally relax your guts. Relax them so much that all the pain, all the problem goes. It's very, very powerful, it works. So that's actually where cancer comes from mostly. And it's not karma, it's just our very stressful lifestyle. And coming here is a wonderful way of avoiding that. Dear Ajahn Brahm, when I was younger, I was actually quite cross with you for telling jokes all the time. I thought religion was meant to be serious, and I didn't want to laugh every Friday at Nolamara. Oh boy. But how deluded I was. The best thing about you, Ajahn Brahm, is your sense of humour. Is that all? Okay, never mind. And how nothing much is too sacred enough to be protected from being turned into a comical anecdote. You leave no alternative for us but to relax by not allowing us to take not only ourselves but also our highly valued opinions not very seriously. Much better to you, the almighty Super Zero. P.S. I promise to always laugh at your jokes. Really? What's one of the worst jokes? Okay, one of the worst jokes. This is going to really test you, whether you can laugh at this one. There was two men standing on top of a cliff. This is the worst pun I've ever had. Two men were standing on the top of a cliff, and one had a canary in a cage. The other one had a parrot on his shoulder. And the one with the canary in the cage, a budgerigar in the cage, jumped off the cliff and went hurtling down. And as soon as the budgie, the canary in the cage, realized what was happening, realized if it didn't do anything, the canary would be crushed to death too. So this bird started flapping its wings, really hard. Because it's easy for the bird to fly, but it had to carry the man's weight as well. So flapping harder and harder, panting, flapping for its life. And it flapped that hard, the man started to slow down. It was actually working. And flapped even harder and harder and harder. And he really had to go for broke, flapping so hard that the man actually stopped falling And when he came to the ground, all he needed to do was to bend his legs to take the last bit of the fall. That budgie, flapping and flying, had not only saved the man, but saved himself. And that poor budgie was on his back, totally exhausted. And then the other guy with the parrot on his shoulder jumped off. And he was hurting to his death. But instead of the parrot flapping, the guy got out a gun and shot the parrot dead. And as soon as the parrot was shot dead, the guy started decelerating, going slower and slower. And when he went to the ground, he didn't even need to bend his legs. He dropped to the ground like a feather. Amazing. And the two looked at each other, and the one with the canary was still panting on the floor of the cage, said, "This budgie jumping is good. Yes, but it's not as good as parrot shooting." You promised to laugh, it says in here. Budgie jumping and parrot shooting. Terrible pun. It's funny, anyway. Ajahn, O smiling master of similes, are our dreams the uncensored voice of our mind? No, they're spam. Are the dream characters all aspects of ourselves? No, they're just uninvited hoodlums. Is it possible to wake up in our dreams? Yes, sometimes, but you want to go to sleep. With much gratitude and respect. Okay. Dear Ajahn Brahm, bad jokes including your teachings and willingness to share your wisdom has been extraordinary. I was hoping you could clarify something from the discussion last night about aspiring to jhanas. How is it this consistent with being content in the now? Is this good enough? Okay, that's a question which I passed by very quickly earlier. Okay, to aspire to a jhana is actually what you're doing here. You're aspiring to peace, you're aspiring to wisdom. If you didn't have that aspiration, you wouldn't be here to begin with. So you want to meditate, you want to learn meditation, that's why you're here. So the aspiration comes first. Now when you actually got that aspiration, then you learn how to meditate. And how to meditate, you've had the aspiration, now abandon the aspiration. The aspiration has got you on the aircraft. Now you're on the aircraft, let go and relax. So this is actually what we're doing. You've aspired, you're here, sit down, let go and relax. And then you achieve the jhanas. And then your aspiration has been fulfilled. And you also understand through wisdom. You had the aspiration to begin with, and to realize the aspiration, you had to let it go. Put it down. Put it away. And then it's realized. And that's the way of getting jhanas. And that's the place of aspiration. As I say, the effort is to get onto your seat, onto the mat, onto the chair, start meditating, and then the effort stops. But if you didn't have any effort at all, you'd still be back in your homeland where you came from. You'd be in your rooms, sleeping. You wouldn't be meditating at all. So the effort is important. But when you start meditating, effort stops. Hope that makes sense. I'm dribbling throughout my meditation, and it's getting worse. Since I've been on retreat, I've even dribbled in my sleep. I'm trying to remember, but that makes me more... I'm trying to surrender, but that makes me more relaxed and dribble more. Help. Very good. Well, what you can do, actually, to stop the dribbling, is meditate upside down. It's an obvious solution, because then you don't dribble, it goes upwards instead of downwards. So try that. Just dribble, for goodness sake. Don't drink so much. What else can you do? Put a sponge in your mouth. So hard to It'll just stop after a while. Hi, Ajahn. I think this meditation hall is one of the most beautiful I have ever been in. Light, airy, cool, and gorgeous floor. Thanks. Yeah, the floor was done by monks. So it's good enough. But it's actually that means that you are getting into nice meditation, because everything looks beautiful once you've got into good meditation, this hall, the toilet, the contents of the toilet, you know, everything. I thought I am the only one who is struggling. Actually, you are. Actually, that was only a joke, you're not. Then I realized many yogis, young and old, have been switching places from mats to chair, mats to mats, chair to chair, etc., all over the place. I feel much better now. Actually, all those people who are sitting from chair to chair, mats to mats, and moving all over the place, they're only doing that out of kindness to you. So you don't feel so embarrassed. They're all totally enlightened. How to let go of the body. It's easy. It's not your body, so it's a nobody. Now, how you let go of the body? That's what meditation does. You know, you don't sit down and meditate and let go of things and you just get the breath. So seriously, to let go of the body is a very difficult thing to do. So you let go of most of the body, you just keep the breath. And just the breath. So you're not totally let go of the body, you just got the breath. And then you let go of the breath, and with it you let go of all the body. It's like crossing a stream, you have the stepping stone in the middle. It's very difficult to let go of the body totally, all in one go. So what we do, we go to the breath first of all, and the breath is beautiful and happy and nice. So it's an attractive place to go to. So you get onto the breath, and you're halfway across the stream. And then it's very easy to go from the breath the rest of the way until there's no body left at all. So that's how you do it, through the breath. Ajahn, I thoroughly enjoyed your talks tonight, this evening, and this morning. I think they're teasing me about what I said this morning about the talk tonight, this evening, and this morning. Thank you for your wisdom. Yes, whatever it was okay. Last but not least, this is quite quick this evening. Not a question, but a suggestion. How about a night where we do interactive Q&A, like in the US? Not sure you have this in Australia. They have movie theatres where they play like Sound of Music, the movie, and the audience sings along to the songs because everybody knows them. Well, you know, most of my stories you know anyway, so you can actually speak along like the stories. So during Q&A with some of your classic stories, here we go, much loved and well known by fans, perhaps you could turn over the mic to someone in the audience or other Sangha members to tell it in your stead to help conserve your energy. Thank you for working very hard to answer all our questions. So what's the most famous story which you know from me? Two bad bricks? Good, bad, who knows? Sorry? Quack, quack, jack. The quack, quack, that's very good. Two bad bricks. When was the last time you heard the story of the most wonderful sound in the world? The guy who went through the 4 doors. The other night, did I? Oh dear, I'm getting old. You see, I told you when you're mindful, you get a good memory. What's another nice story which I haven't said for a long time?
About the dying man with 4 wives.
4 wives?
4 wives.
Yeah, that's a nice one. What about the 5 fingers? Wow, I've got one you haven't heard for a while. This is really important at the end of the retreat. Once there were 5 fingers, and the 5 fingers were having an argument. Who was the most important finger? And the first candidate was the thumb. I am the strongest, the most powerful of all the fingers, the opposable thumb. Without me, human beings couldn't have advanced so far. I am the most, and also, when you say good, Wonderful. Which finger do you put up? Me, I am okay. I am the okay finger. So I am the best. And the second finger put it in his hand and said, no, I am number one. When you say number one, you put me up. And also, I am the one who points things out to you. I am the finger of wisdom. That's why I am the most important finger. The finger of wisdom, the number one finger. The next finger said, I am the most powerful. When people put me up, they get very upset. I'm not going to do that. Even I have my limits. I am the tallest finger, so I can see furthest. But what's most important, I am in the very middle. And the Buddha's taught the middle way. I am the middle way finger, therefore I am the most important of them all. And the next finger was the index finger. I don't know, this finger over the fourth finger. He said, actually, I am the most important finger, because I am the finger of love. When people get engaged, they fall in love, they put the finger on, they put the ring on me. And then when they get married, I get another ring. I am the finger of love. And without love, where would the world be? Love, metta, compassion, the most important thing in the world. Therefore I, the finger of love, am the most important finger of you all. And that left the last finger, the little finger. And the little finger, the most humble, said, actually, I am the most important finger of you all, and I'll tell you why. Even though you use me to do dirty things. I like doing that. Even though you use me to do dirty things, that when you pray to the Buddha, I am always closest to the Buddha. Therefore I am the most important finger. So, the one who cleans up after lunch and breakfast, who empties all the rubbish, who does all the dirty things in your cottage, you are the most important person, because you are closest to the Buddha. So do you want to be close to enlightenment? Then clean up the heart, take out the garbage, do all the dirty things. And you are become the most important finger. Didn't convince you, did it? Well, one day it will anyway. Okay, so that's the story of the five fingers and which one is the most important. Okay, so any other questions, comments, or do you want to go to bed?